There are families with money, and then there are the Rockefellers, a name that became synonymous with wealth itself. A dynasty whose fortune, at its zenith, was not just vast, it was geopolitical. Imagine for a moment a single family holding more wealth than the entire economic output of many nations. This was not a flight of fancy. It was the reality of the Gilded Age. The Rockefeller coffers swelled to a size that honestly dwarfed national budgets, creating a private empire that could rival governments. It was a new kind of power, forged not by armies or edicts but by commerce, by vision, and by an unrelenting will to dominate. The story of the Rockefellers is the story of modern capitalism itself. At the heart of this empire was one man, John Davison Rockefeller. His personal fortune was staggering. Historians and economists estimate that, at its peak, over $400 billion in today's currency. This would make him, without question, the wealthiest private citizen in modern history. It was a fortune that represented nearly 2% of the entire American economy. So, how does such a dynasty begin? It started with a single barrel of oil. The story of Standard Oil does not begin in a grand boardroom or a Wall Street bank. It begins in the muddy fields of western Pennsylvania, where black sludge seeped from the ground. For centuries, this substance was a curiosity, a nuisance. But in the mid-1800s, scientists discovered it could be refined into kerosene. And kerosene could light the night. This was a revolution. Suddenly darkness could be pushed back, not just for the wealthy with their expensive whale oil, but for everyone. John D. Rockefeller, a meticulous and ambitious young bookkeeper from Cleveland, saw not just the oil, but the entire system waiting to be built around it. It was 1863 when Rockefeller, along with his partners, invested in his first refinery. He was not a wildcatter, drilling speculative wells and hoping to strike it rich. That was a gambler's game. Rockefeller was a strategist. He understood that the real money wasn't in pulling the oil from the earth, but in refining it, transporting it, and selling it. While others chased the boom and bust cycle of discovery, Rockefeller focused on the steady, predictable, and infinitely scalable business of processing. He saw the waste, the inefficiency, and the chaos of the early oil industry, and in that chaos, he saw an immense opportunity for order. His order. Rockefeller was obsessed with efficiency. He famously declared his desire to pay a profit to nobody. He built his own barrels, bought his own timberlands to supply the wood, and hired his own chemists to find uses for every byproduct of the refining process. This relentless drive to cut costs and eliminate waste gave his company, which would soon be known as Standard Oil, a decisive edge. Until one company stood alone as the undisputed king of oil. With its foundation of efficiency firmly in place, Standard Oil began its inexorable march toward monopoly. The goal was simple and audacious, to control not just a piece of the American oil market, but all of it. Rockefeller and his partners employed a strategy they called "Our Plan." It was a systematic campaign to bring the entire industry under their dominion. They would approach a competing refiner with an offer. They would open their books, show the rival their efficiency, their profitability, the sheer futility of competing against them. Then, they would offer to buy them out, often with shares in the growing Standard Oil Trust. For those who accepted the offer, the rewards could be great. They traded the uncertainty of a volatile industry for a stake in a guaranteed profit machine. But for those who refused, a different fate awaited. Rockefeller would unleash the full power of his enterprise against them. He would slash prices in their local market, selling kerosene at a loss just to drive them into bankruptcy. He had the scale and the cash reserves to sustain these price wars indefinitely, a luxury his smaller competitors could never afford. The true masterstroke of Standard Oil's dominance, however, lay in its control of transportation. He forged secret, preferential deals with the powerful railroad magnates. In exchange for guaranteeing massive, consistent volumes of cargo, Standard Oil received substantial rebates on its shipping costs. By 1879, a mere decade after its official incorporation, Standard Oil had achieved a near-total monopoly. It controlled an estimated 90% of all oil refined in the United States. The company had become a behemoth, an industrial machine of unprecedented size and power. One company under one man's vision now held the nation's energy supply in its hands. Was John D. Rockefeller a ruthless monopolist or a brilliant captain of industry? The question hung over the Gilded Age and still echoes today. To his millions of customers, he was the man who brought light into their homes. Standard Oil drove kerosene from over 50 cents a gallon to less than 10 cents. This changed daily life, extending the day for work, study, leisure. Defenders said he brought order to a chaotic industry, created tens of thousands of stable jobs, built a company envied worldwide, streamlined a vital resource for the good of the nation. But to competitors, to small business owners, and to journalists and politicians, he was a robber baron, a term of contempt for industrialists who used predatory, anti-competitive practices. They said he crushed rivals without mercy, manipulated markets, colluded with railroads to build a monopoly. The Widow Backus story, a small Cleveland refinery ruined, became a symbol of his heartlessness. He'd target a region, flood it with cheap oil, bankrupt local refiners, buy assets for pennies on the dollar, then raise prices once the competition was gone. Business as warfare, Rockefeller as Napoleon. Investigative journalists like Ida Tarbell cemented this image. Her 1904 exposé, The History of the Standard Oil Company, revealed secret deals, pressure tactics, sheer ruthlessness. Tarbell painted a damning portrait, fixing Rockefeller as a cold monopolist in the public mind. The country began to ask, was that too much power for one person? Standard Oil did more than just light up America's nights with affordable kerosene. It became the lifeblood of the nation's second industrial revolution. The vast network of railroads that crisscrossed the continent carrying people and goods ran on lubricants refined by Standard Oil. The burgeoning factories with their clanking, churning machinery depended on industrial oils to keep their gears from grinding to a halt. From the steel mills of Pittsburgh to the textile factories of New England, Rockefeller's products were the essential ingredient that kept the engines of progress running smoothly and efficiently. John D. Rockefeller wasn't just selling oil, he was selling the future. He understood, maybe better than anyone, that the new age would be powered by hydrocarbons. As the 20th century dawned, a new invention began to appear on American roads, the automobile. This horseless carriage ran on a volatile byproduct of kerosene refining that most had considered worthless: gasoline. Suddenly, Standard Oil was perfectly positioned to fuel the next great technological leap. As Henry Ford began to mass-produce the Model T, making cars affordable for the average family, Standard Oil was there to provide the gasoline. Rockefeller didn't just stumble into this new market, he enabled it. He owned the resource, the refining capacity, and the delivery system. He controlled the energy that would shrink distances, build suburbs, and fundamentally reshape the American landscape. He was no longer just the man who lit the lamps, he was the man who put the nation on wheels. This strategic positioning really demonstrates the core of Rockefeller's genius. He was always looking beyond the current market, anticipating the next need. He didn't just own a company. In a very real sense, he owned the future, holding the keys to the energy that would power American life for decades to come. The sheer size and power of the Standard Oil Trust could not go unchallenged forever. Public outcry, fueled by journalists like Ida Tarbell, grew into a powerful political movement. The government, under President Theodore Roosevelt, began to use the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890 to break up the great industrial monopolies, and Standard Oil was its primary target. It culminated in a landmark 1911 Supreme Court decision that would change American business forever. The court ruled that Standard Oil was an illegal monopoly and ordered it to be dismantled. The great trust was broken up into 34 separate, independent companies. Among them were firms that would become household names in their own right: Exxon, Mobil, Chevron, Amoco, Conoco. But a strange thing happened. John D. Rockefeller retained his personal stock holdings in each of the new, smaller companies. As these firms began to compete with one another, their combined value soared. The breakup, intended to diminish his power, paradoxically made John D. Rockefeller the richest man in the world. Having retired from the day-to-day operations of Standard Oil years earlier, Rockefeller dedicated the second half of his life to philanthropy on an unprecedented scale. He founded the University of Chicago, created the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research, and launched the Rockefeller Foundation, which worked to eradicate diseases like hookworm and yellow fever around the globe. The robber baron of the 19th century transformed himself into the greatest philanthropist of the 20th. The legacy of the Rockefellers is a story of profound contradictions. The name Rockefeller is etched into the American landscape. It adorns university halls, medical centers, museums, and national parks. Their influence appears in public health, scientific research, and international relations. A fortune that began with a barrel of oil transformed into cultural and social development, leaving an indelible mark at home and abroad. Continue exploring these stories, uncover the sagas of the great American dynasties that shape our shared history. Like and subscribe for more videos like this.